And it's interesting to me.
Well, last summer when I went to Cal State, one of the things I want to get back at it. So I have. So I don't remember what it's yeah.
Excuse me, can I ask you to see, please?
Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you what to do tonight. Nice talking to you. Sit down.
Sit down.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking your time out of your busy schedule to come out. What's that? Council Cruz, thanks for the How about now? No?
Just need to go closer to your mouth.
All right, no, still pretty close there. Okay. On behalf of the council, good evening and thank you for coming. In 2024, the town of Paradise introduced the Paradise Plan 2027 strategic plan. Within the plan, the town acknowledges that residents identify the want for a pool and no? That's okay. How about now? No? I can hear you. How about now? I can hear it, it's just a little low.
Yes.
Okay, Screw?
Good job, I didn't move on.
Oh, I gotta make sure everybody can hear it.
Hello there, how are you?
How about now? Testing. All right, any better? No? Council's in the back, any better? I think it's just my voice now, I'm not even mic it off. Aaron's coming to speak up. All right, I'll start over from the top. On behalf of council, good evening and thanks everyone for coming out. In 2024, the town of Paradise introduced your Paradise Plan 2027 strategic plan. Within the plan, the town acknowledged that residents had identified the want for a pool, and council committed to completing a feasibility study for a swimming pool for 2025. And here we are today. Stantec Limited was awarded the RFP to complete pool feasibility study and committed to providing information session on what we heard. At this time, I'd like to welcome Amelia from Stantec and Jason to present what we heard from Quantum. And please, everyone, this is live stream tonight, so just remind everybody that, okay? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Town of Paradise, for having us here today. Can you hear me in person? I can talk louder. Can you hear me? You might have heard that I'm Amelia Hollingthurst from Stantec Architecture, and we're so pleased to be awarded the work of this feasibility study for the town. Online, I do have my colleague Jason Simitek from Quantum Recreation. Jason, just do an audio test and say hi for us.
All right, hello everyone.
Jason wanted to be here today, but alas, you get me. I live here in St. John's, Newfoundland, and Jason traipses all over Canada talking sports and rec. So let's get down to it. Basically, this is a public presentation of the feasibility study that has been completed. We're here to share some information. We're also going to create time at the end for some questions, comments, anything you want to share or ask more about. Okay, so we've gone through the introductions, a loose agenda for today. We're going to move fairly quickly. The presentation we have, if you did have a chance to see it back in December, we presented to council the findings from the report from the whole process. The presentation follows that very closely, and it also follows the report that's available online, publicly available, the final report. So this whole process started in June of 2025, wrapped up around December when we had, as I mentioned, that presentation to council. Basically, the 5 key steps included information gathering of the community, of the existing facility, public engagement, which was a huge component to this whole process. There was a number of pop-ups, of course the online survey, we'll talk a little bit about that. We did analyze 2 different site locations for a potential new aquatic center for the community and present the findings ultimately within a final report. So the purpose of the report is to provide information to support decision-making for council. Basically, what's the demand? How feasible is an aquatic facility for the town of Paradise? And hopefully allow council to make an educated decision based on the findings of the study. So some of the background that we looked at, we do know Paradise is one of the fastest growing communities in the region. And we know that it's tough to get swimming lessons for your children. A lot of people are traveling to Mount Pearl, CBS, the works, just to get access, and sometimes those spots are already filled up. We do know that the current need is not being met here in Paradise better. And also swimming is a critical skill. It's a life skill. Drownings do happen. You know, sometimes they're boating related, sometimes they're tide related, but that ability to swim on some level is a safety element, and the right to have lessons, the right to learn to swim. You know, that's an attitude that a lot of communities are starting to look at, just like the right to healthcare. So ultimately we found, and we expected the engagement would tell us that there is a strong demand in the area for aquatic services. So what did engagement look like? We assessed current swimming habits. Where are you going? What programs are you taking? Is it aqua size? Is it lessons? Is it learning how to become a lifeguard? What time of day were you using those programs? What kind of design features or facility aspects would be appropriate to meet your needs in this community? And then the demand, so is there a long waiting list? Are you getting access to the programs that you sign up for, that you want to participate in? We also looked at the willingness to pay. So if we were to build an aquatic center, is there a willingness to pay to offset some of the annual operating cost that an aquatic center does take on? That's a reality of aquatic facilities. They are a money loser, but there are, you know, other values that they bring to the community. The survey results were incredible, and Jason, feel free to jump in here from Quantum Online. But the number of responses that we received, almost 2,000 completed responses, was a really good representation. And there's a few reasons for that. There's some more data coming, but we didn't expect to get that many responses. It was a true testament to how passionate the community is. Whether you want it or don't want it, you came out to say. Okay? So I'm not going to go through all these bullet points, but we did hear that children's swimming lessons was one of the top elements that people wanted to see, that we're very interested in. And a lot of people agreed that a pool would improve the quality of life. So that's one of those qualitative pieces when you start to balance it with the cost. you're looking at that life quality aspect, although there could be, cost implications on an annual basis. We did learn.
Just to jump in and explain,
Yeah,
sorry, maybe I just jump in on that 1900.
Mhm.
So based on that 1900 completed responses, one of the key things that came out of it, there's a question that asked about, who this represents in your household. And based on those numbers, it's 45% of your population and 22% of your dwellings that provided input on that survey. So again, when you go into some of these things, talk about 80 to 90% agree that pool would improve quality of life. Look around the room, and these are the people that were part of that survey. And it was a strong sentiment from the amount of people in the community that obviously you're showing this as a big need coming from it, or a large want. So.
Yeah, it's such a strong want that we were surprised to see the number of individuals that would accept some tax increase to support this initiative. Right? That's a testament to how much you would like to have this in your community. So, what we did here was a lot of people would swim weekly or daily if a local pool existed in their community. We mentioned lessons, water fitness, rehab therapy. So water is therapy, and as you get older, being able to have that buoyancy and that space to get active in, it's easy on your joints, that's a huge attractor. Swim camps, birthday rentals, and we also heard a little bit about some of the spaces people would like to see, right? Shallow area, lap pool was probably the number one that we heard. At least a 25-meter lap pool was a really strong component that the community wanted to see. Some people really wanted a 50, and we did look at that as well, so we'll show you that. So to Jason's point, some of the percentages here, right, and some of the numbers, we got really good survey participation from, I guess ages 25 to 54. You'll see some of those numbers there, kind of in this area. And then because parents are filling it in, they have the opportunity to say, I have 2 children of this age, or I have 3 children, or one child of this age. So I think that's, am I capturing that correctly there, Jason?
Yes, you are.
So some of the results, these are just a few of the highlights. 91% agreed that Paradise lacks adequate swimming facilities. We know we can swim in the summer, but what is that, 1 month a year, maybe? 2 months, maybe? 82% agreed that a pool would improve their quality of life. 74% interested in children's swimming lessons. That's a big one. 85% showed strong support for paying additional property tax for the pool. Again, this shows willingness to pay, and how bad people would like a pool in their community versus driving to other communities, or maybe not having access at all. 52% expect to use evening recreational swims weekly and daily, and 64% rated the shallow child area as essential. So that just speaks to families and being able to participate with small children. Jason, what is the walking man, the 45%, less than 6 kilometers? Is that a desire to not travel?
Yeah, not to travel that far. So they would like to travel that percentage to travel to the pool. So you're traveling quite far away for that.
So yeah, we heard proximity is important. Go ahead, Tina.
Amelia, do Jason's first, because we can't hear Jason.
Okay. Well, thanks. Thank you for clarifying. What Jason just said is 45% of the community respondents said, I would like to not have to travel far to the next aquatic center. During rush hour, 6 kilometers doesn't seem like much, but I know what it's like in rush hour. I don't live in the community, but what if I had to come out here? I understand a little bit of what you're dealing with. Okay, so through all of that engagement that happened throughout the summer, we had a couple pop-ups, we had the survey. Basically, the data that came back to us allowed us to propose a program for this potential new aquatic center. So what are the spaces that we could put into this new facility that would meet the needs that we're hearing from you that you want and need? So number one, either a 25 or 50-meter lap pool was going to be key. And we proposed 8-lane because it does open you up for more provincial competition events. A leisure pool, so this is that zero beach entry, warmer water, maybe there's a tots area with spray features, lazy river, but also a deeper component with warm-up lanes, some sort of a hot tub or swirl pool, a slide. Of course, there's going to be pool deck spaces, and pool viewing is important as well. So spectator and both like adult viewing. I'm not going to go through all the pieces, but a couple key other program components was definitely a desire to look at an inclusive or all gender change space. So that's very forward thinking and accommodates a lot of different users. Also multi-purpose rooms and a control desk is going to be a main feature to monitor access in and out of the facility. One of our next steps was to develop test fits. So basically a test fit, it's not quite a floor plan of a proposed facility, but it takes the overall area and starts to lay it out to see what can fit, how it could fit, either next to an existing facility like this, or in a greenfield site. So what you'll see here is not really design, but it is a test to see how feasible different site options could be and how this space could be arranged and laid out to function efficiently. Some of the things that we wanted to consider were visibility and inviting main entry and approach to the facility. This goes to wayfinding, clear access, approachability, accessibility. We wanted to make sure that staff could have passive surveillance as well as active surveillance. We wanted to make sure we were capturing views, transparency, and natural light. And there's going to be some zoning within the aquatic program. There's some efficiencies there that I'll walk through. But probably most importantly, what we see in recreation facilities today is the aspect of the social heart or the community hub. These can be spaces where people can go for free and play cards and get a coffee and feel welcome, and they have a place to go. Loneliness is something that we deal with in our society today. There's not a lot of places you can go for free without purchasing something, and community hubs can play that role for communities. This is an adjacency diagram. It's very kind of conceptual, but it does start to set up a flow that then informs the test fits. And really it's about coming from the parking lot to the main entry to a control point where you can get information, you learn where to go. And from there, you could go to pool viewing, you could go to the change rooms if you're going to be a user, or there's a connection with staff and lifeguard area. So there's synergies there with staff, and they can always talk to each other and communicate. Ultimately flowing into the natatorium or the aquatic space. Talked a little bit about zoning. So when we're designing aquatic facilities, we do like to establish zoning. Some of this helps with life-saving in terms of establishing shallower portions of water in one area and progressively getting deeper. So we're making sure that the little kids are coming out into a shallow area. It makes lifeguarding a little bit easier for those guys, especially if the change rooms flow out into the shallow water area. And you know that those smaller users are going to be safer in that zone. And it also helps with your programming, and you'll see a little bit as we walk through the test fits. But there's, I'm not going to go through all the different programming options, but I think you get the gist of it, right? All the way from a parent zone, youth, exercise, and competition. So with these test fits, we looked at two sites. One is right here at the Double Ice Complex, your existing community hub within the town of Paradise. And the other one we'll get to, a bit more of a greenfield site. But what we like about this facility is it's very well known. It's in the center of the community. You're already coming here for recreation and leisure and social opportunities. And there's this nice little nook in the corner of the building, right? I think someone told me it was designed for a future aquatics facility. We looked at a few different areas where it could be added to the existing facility, right? You want to explore this component here. We ruled that out really because there's not a great connection to a second floor adjacent to the ice rinks. This little nook here brings us in close to the feature stair, the elevator, and has less impact to your existing parking in that area. Okay, so basically looking in that area there. Okay, so here's a diagram, just looking at the site, the existing building, that alcove where the new aquatic center could sit. We would need potentially 250 additional parking stalls. That's a straight up bylaw calculation. Usually there's a shared use reduction that can be negotiated with the existing parking, but you probably all saw it out there today, right? So parking is important. And then this outline here, I'll go through an enlarged plan, but it looks at the aquatic center with a 25-meter 8-lane lap pool, and then a dash outline of that 50-meter lap pool option as well. Okay. Well, I don't expect you to be able to read the text here, but we'll go through it. Ultimately, here's your existing facility main entry, probably came in there today. And what we're proposing is a control desk right around in this location here with eyesight on the main entry, eyesight towards pool viewing opportunities here, both dry and wet, connection to a public change area, and then connection to the staff and lifeguard area beyond. Okay. Staff and lifeguard area is going to have great visibility onto a leisure pool, hot tub, slide, and then the lap pool. There's an extra deck space here, and I'll show you why that's there when we get up to the second floor, but it could be used to support events or competitions. And then we have wet storage and small mechanical components. So we talked about zoning within the natatorium, but I also mentioned one of my favorite parts is the social part, right? So you have a great seating area deeper into the entry right now. It was very busy when I was down there today. This is an opportunity to bring some of that social activity, social part up through your atrium space and your feature stair. And the way that this test pit is laid out, basically the child-parent zone is first and foremost. So there's an opportunity for shallow water. There's an opportunity for a parent to watch, child, a guardian, or child getting a lesson from this area here. And then, of course, the social pit, the hot tub. It's usually an adult chat area. Next, we go into the youth zone. So the leisure tank gets a little bit deeper. There's more aggressive spray features. There's the slide, very exciting. Exercise zone, this is your aqua size, this is your recreational swim. It could be in the deep end of the leisure tank, it could be in the lap pool, and then ultimately your competition zone. Following along with this test fit, the second floor, not a lot of area up on the second floor, but coming up the feature stair or the elevator, we have some multi-purpose rooms, community use, birthday parties, mechanical space, washrooms, spectator seating. So second floor spectator seating, looking down onto the lap pool, parallel with the lanes. And it's set back here for good sight lines. So you may have been in a facility in your life where you're up on the second floor and you're sitting back and you can't even see until halfway through, to the lap pool, right? And that's because you're not pulled back far enough. So that's why there's that extra deck area, so everybody can see every lane. Okay? And then, if we did go to a 50-meter lap pool, we would just expand that spectator seating on the second floor with it. And ultimately, not super exciting unless I have any mechanical engineers in the room, but a pool basement component is required for your pumps, your surge tanks, a little bit of electrical, but mostly pool mechanical down there. The second site we looked at is the Diane Whalen site, and there is a greater master plan for the outdoor fields in this site. Close to the school, still within the heart of the community, Obviously, we were just right here, now we're looking over here. And overlaid is the master plan that we're aware of. I'm going to rotate a little bit here, but ultimately 3 fields, some landscaping, parking. You know, there's a nice little access here connecting up to the school. There's a vision for this space, right? And you can see one of the locations that we looked at for a potential standalone aquatic center is up in this upper right corner here. Okay. Very similar layout to what we just looked at for this location here at the Double Ice Complex, but it is standalone. So there would be an elevator, there would be a feature stair, there would be a transformer, you know, all the things that a standalone building will need, its own atrium, right? So you don't see a lot of aquatic centers getting built as standalone facilities that often these days. And one of the reasons is because it is the most expensive, one of the most expensive recreation amenities to provide, to operate and run. So it's usually paired with a field house, a little bit more economical. Even ice rinks are a little bit easier to operate. And then there's also some heat recovery benefits that you can see between an ice plant giving off heat and throwing it away, but instead capturing it and preheating some of your domestic hot water for your aquatic center. But they're still built. I visited East Hants Aquatic Center in Nova Scotia recently, standalone aquatic facility. It does happen. So we wanted to dig into this a little bit more. There'd be, you know, additional parking, just like we looked at for this site, and the facility could sit in this area. There could be synergies, you know, walking distance from the school, near the outdoor fields. Here's another location we looked at. Had a nice aligning of this access here to the main entry of the facility. But ultimately, doing a comparison of both sites. One of the sites seemed to be a little bit more promising and have a few more pros. So what we liked about this facility, this location here, was the synergy with the existing rec center, of course. Mom is going ice skating with Julie, and Dad is going swimming with Darren, right? It's a one-stop shop for a family event. It is the existing recreation hub for the community. There could be staffing efficiencies, one control desk for the whole facility, other shared services like custodial and so on. We may not have to build as many parking stalls, TBD on that. It's a bit of a hot topic today. There could be heat recovery from the ice plant. We do understand that's already being used a little bit within the facility as a lead facility that we're in right now, but there is still heat that's wasted during peak usage times. And then visibility, this is a big one. So this site is very visible to the community off a main road. The other site is a little bit more tucked away. Not that that's the end of the world, but it does speak to community pride. It does speak to people seeing a bright, shiny new aquatic center and the growth within Paradise. Cons of this location, there could be some disruption during construction. Because of where it's located, that could be isolated and managed fairly well. We would avoid shutting down any services during that construction if possible. And there's a few things outside to relocate. But, you know, the Diane Whalen site had some good aspects too. Like I mentioned, walking distance to the school. It's a standalone building, there's no disruption. We do have concerns over water pressure, so there would be further civil investigation that would have to go on there. We did include for a fire pump and a few other kind of conservative aspects for that site in the cost estimate because of those concerns. It's a little bit hidden. There would be road access upgrades required and remote locations, so additional staff and you know, some logistics about being isolated there. Ultimately, the Double Ice Complex site seemed to make the most sense. Both of them work, both of them fit, but this one made more sense. So with that in mind, we just had a little bit of fun and developed some 3D views. Again, this is not design, this is just meant to get, you know, the juices flowing of what this could be, what this expansion could look like or feel like off of your existing rec center here. So a few views, a little bit hard in the light, but from the parking lot, from McNamara Drive, near the main entry, and within, the natatorium. So again, we're probably not going to have that much glazing in the end result, but we did want to show some transparency just to give you a sense of what could be inside this new expansion. Okay, brass tacks. For the cost estimate that was developed, it was a Class D construction cost estimate developed by Hanscom Quantity Surveyors. This is about 30% accurate, plus or minus, at this stage, because there's a lot of unknowns. And there is a 20% design and pricing contingency on top of this. So it's pretty high level, but you have to start somewhere. Ultimately, just to kind of break this down, we looked at a steel structure facility. We also looked at a mass timber, so fully wood structure facility. The price gap between both of those is narrowing, which is great news. Timber performs really well in wet environments, much better than steel. Steel, you're going to be treating it with epoxy paint, and it probably will still rust at some point. But wood is going to perform better. That said, for Site 1, which is this site here, the Double Ice Complex, with a 25-meter lap pool, the estimated construction cost was $46,860,000. And that was our lowest out of all the prices and the different scenarios that we looked at. Okay, 50-meter lap pool, same location, steel structure, 61 million. So, about 15 million in difference to go to that 50-meter versus 25 meter. And then Site 2, a little bit more expensive, about 3 million more than Site 1. And that's because there's some cost to building a standalone facility and some road upgrades to accommodate that. And then same for the 50-meter, right? A jump there as well. Timber, not that much more. Every dollar counts, but it's really about, 300,000 difference between Site 1 25 meter, Site 1 25 meter mass timber. I recommend if you do go into future design phases to continue to explore that, because as the details get developed and the specifications, I imagine that window could close when you start thinking about how you have to treat the steel versus the exposed wood. But again, I'm not going to go through all the numbers. It goes up a little bit more. So we're working with this base number right now in terms of a estimated construction cost for a potential new aquatic center for the town of Paradise. Something to keep in mind, escalation is real and it's worse than it used to be. There were days when we would see 2.5% increase per year, 3% increase per year. What's recommended to us now is a 6% increase per year, which is wild. The longer you wait, the more things cost, unfortunately. Now, Quantum did take a look at operational cost recovery. So this looks at annual expenses and annual revenue. So it's not construction cost, but it does give you a sense of year to year. What is it going to take to keep this facility operating, maintained, and running for you in the long term. So the estimates here is roughly 1.7 million per year to cover, salaries, wages, supplies, utilities, insurance, maintenance, and so on. So again, these would be refined further if you go into additional design phases and get into more detailed design. Understanding that, so your expenses plus your revenue, which would be generated through registered programs, drop-in passes, rentals. There is a whole plethora of ways you can program this space. And based on your demand, Quantum has proposed a mix, a concoction that is fairly conservative, I believe, Jason, and if you wanted to jump in, please do so.
Yeah, if you have the next slide that shows both pieces, then I can explain easier. There you go. So if you end up looking at the cost recovery rate, so unfortunately, as Amelia did state when she started this presentation, pools unfortunately don't make money. Recreation does not make money. It is not a money maker. We recovery is a percentage of what the total costs are to actually produce that service. So for example, if a course costs $100 and the cost recovery is 50%, that means you as a user is only being charged $50. There some instances where you charge 100 or 110%, things like golf and things like that, or private clubs charge like that. But in public recreation, unfortunately, you have that cost recovery that's there, so we're never going to make a profit, but we can talk about revenue. So when we look at this revenue right now, 872,000, that is a very conservative number. Why it's conservative is based on a very small amount of registered programs, so about 20% is being registered programs, so that's your swimming lessons. Right now, how swimming lessons work, you only have multiple sessions, and children only do multiple sessions per year. What that means is if there's one student, they may end up taking up to 2 or 3 sessions. So that would mean, based on your student population right now, it would be about 6,000 spaces. We budgeted 2,000 spaces. This doesn't include anything like adults learning to swim or all the other options that are there, or any of the more senior levels. This is just basically on the youth and children's swimming lessons that are there. So again, it's very conservative based upon that. We didn't base this on saying you're going to be there and saying it would be programmed at 90% of registered programs. We did actually, majority of it is a drop-in passes, meaning lane swim, going to go play on the slide or playing as a child in a shallow area, those type of things. So if you look at your revenue, you have a large amount you can end up making because now you can program those drop-in times. So, having more aqua size, having more opportunities for families to come and do event nights and things like that. That's what you're doing. The other big thing too is that we put the rentals very, very low. So if you end up using, there is a strong swim club that's there, and they have stated that they would be interested in starting a satellite program based on that prime time of 7 till 10 every evening during the school time, and then of course summer as well. There's opportunity for that as well. Would be a lot of revenue. Right now we count it as only 2% of your revenue. Normally running pools are running about 15% is what they're looking at for rental revenue. And that again includes birthday parties and the rest of the fun that falls into that. So our numbers right now for revenue is very conservative. However, it follows the same line for cost recovery of 51% that the arena runs at. So again, it's not like we're pitching something too low or too high on this. We're basically using the same exact example, that 51% cost recovery that the arena is using right now. If you look at the expenses, again, the expenses are based on wages. But again, why we talk about an estimated tax increase, so how that is actually works and why there's such a large sort of range on it, is that it's like any sort of business, unfortunately, when you're doing a forecast of what you feel your sales are going to be. There's a lot of things that go into it, as Amelia stated, to try and figure that out and try and figure out what those numbers are going to be. We feel right now for the first 5 years of opening that you're actually going to be a lot better because you have so many kids and there's such a large wait list for people that are looking to do children's swim lessons right now, that you're going to see attrition from the other areas coming back to help this facility funded for meeting those registered program times. So again, that tax increase is per dwelling. We weren't able to do or weren't going to do any fancy math like for 100,000 of your house and things like that. That's just basically there's 8,000 dwellings in there. So we divided the difference, that 49% divide out, and that's what worked out to be. It's about that range that's in there for you to understand. So, and the other interesting thing too, when Amelia started talking about the talks of the cost recovery or the willingness to pay questions that we had, in every single opportunity we went out for engagement, and every single tactic we had some sort of question about where you would be for taxes, and are you willing to pay for this? And every majority of the people that came were stating that they would actually have a tax increase that matches this tax increase that's stated right here based on the dwelling count.
Thanks, Jason. If you didn't catch any of that, please ask the question. I'll try to answer here in person. But that does round out the information that we have to share with you today. And I think we definitely have some time for comments and questions, which is really the most important part. Hopefully the info helped, but maybe I'll open it up. Does anyone have anything they'd like to share or ask? Yes.
You're also saying that the closest swimming pool is the summer. I go to Ridgewood Park. I can go to Ridgewood Park faster than I can in my pool. The other thing I don't see in your presentation, where they're saying there are 4 swimming pools,
Mhm.
and this is 5 swimming pools. So have you ever looked at the less swimming pools, more profitable there, the more swimming pools there? This is going to cost us taxpayer dollars $1 million. And
Sorry, sir, I'm having trouble hearing you.
I would say, I think that, is there a copy of this paper copy? Because I find the quality of those things are very, very hard to read.
Mhm.
So I like to have a paper copy.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, it's very hard to understand the red PA system. So, anyway, all the messages about that. But I'd like an answer to some of those questions.
Yeah.
Why you say the only place we can go is the summit, which is not true. I can go to Basic Park and do it and go in 10 minutes. Faster than I get into 3 or 4 weeks getting in one go.
Right.
I'm going to CBS, I go to Akron.
Yeah.
So the more polls you have, the less profitable that we want to be with it.
Right, yeah. Jason, did you catch that? So, what the gentleman is talking about is the more pools we have, we're taking business away from other pools. Is that correct, sir? Less
Yeah.
profitable, right? So what we found is there's pretty significant waiting lists to even get into the nearby pools. And I take your point, you know, the Wedgwood, maybe we missed that one, but definitely the Works and the Y and CBS, absolutely. We did look at the usage and the demand for those facilities. And we know that there's a partnership agreement that the town has to allow, you know, some spots for children to get lessons in those facilities. But it's not enough. What we're hearing, kids are still not able to get in and get lesson times. And so that plays into the demand that we've highlighted in the report. And absolutely, the report is available online. Tina, maybe we can share that out. And that would have all the content that we shared here today, absolutely, that you can take your time with. Pardon?
I'd like to get a copy.
Certainly, certainly. Yeah.
Hi.
Can you just hear me after that as well?
I think we're good, Jace, unless, yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious, how long will it take the construction if it were to start from beginning to end?
Yeah, great question. It can vary, obviously, depending on how you approach the process, whether you focus on design and then do a public tender out to general contractors, or you put out an RFP for a combined team of contractor and designer. So I would say for an aquatic facility of this size, you want to budget, you know, I want to say 2 to 3 years. You know, it could be fast tracked to maybe 18 months if you went through a design build process, but you do lose some control over the design and product that way.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah,
What will that do to Paradise's current traffic issue?
great point. So when we were engaged in this process, because we were looking at 2 different sites and we really didn't know how big of a facility we'd be looking at proposing, a traffic impact assessment study was not included in the scope, but it would be one of the first items that the town would want to do moving forward, because they know that's a concern. That's what I've been told. That's what Stantec does. It's an important step before you go any further. Yes, the lady in the black jacket.
Okay, are you basing this group, what is it, 8,000 more? 8,800?
Yeah.
On 2021 census or current?
Yeah, Jason.
Or using more current, more current. Instead of one of the research today, it being according to the census, the population Paradise was 23,957. Now, the estimated numbers now over 25, approaching 26 and increasing. So, what numbers?
Yeah.
Are you based this on? The old census or more relevant data?
Jason, do you know the housing, the dwelling count, the population count? The woman here is wondering what census data we based that on. Was it earlier or more current? You may not have that at hand, but yeah.
No, it's 2021. It's from the Canadian census.
2021.
Okay.
2021. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
the numbers being correct.
yeah.
Yes.
But, just to round that out, to your point, increased growth, right, which we did, in the report, there's more information about demographics and projected growth within the community that was also looked at. You are a growing community, and yeah, I'm not surprised that the numbers are different. Sir in the blue jacket?
Yeah, so it's I would say it's unfortunate, not from a town perspective, but from a provincial government perspective. The provincial government unfortunately didn't factor in the fact that we're building, they plan to build a brand new school here, and it's the plan to build a brand new school in Portuguese. Wouldn't it have been such a novel idea to build a huge school with an aquatic facility adjacent to it, or attached to it? What a novel concept. The only aquatic facility potentially in the province, and in the province of agriculture. We're not there. That ship is unfortunately sailed. My question is, in terms of the cost recovery, the number I think that was included was around 51%, which as the lady company recognized, it references 8,800 households. There is a new census coming in later this year. I suspect that number is going to go off by leaps and bounds. But that number talks about operational costs. In other words, year to year to year. That's essentially balancing the books from 1 year to the next with revenue versus and taxation. My question is, in terms of taxation and construction costs, what will be the tax element of construction costs for the service?
Yeah, maybe I'll start that one off, but Jason, you're going to be well positioned to, I think, get into this. We typically don't include the construction cost in that piece because it's unknown where that funding is going to come from and what the payback. Go ahead.
Yeah, fair point. That's absolutely a great point. But I think for resident knowledge, it would be important to know, even if it's based on a percentage, so if the cost of the town is 25%, the cost of the town is 50%, the cost of the town is 100%, what is the projected, what's the projected cost for residents on a household basis, based on those percentages? So that's one way to do it, to at least give residents some idea.
Fair point. Often what we'll see is like a 30-30-30, and then sometimes the portion of the town is fundraising and then donors and, other things that go on. But you're right, there is a price tag to that that has to be looked at for sure. Sir?
Just wondering, I couldn't notice in your numbers, do you have any overruns built into contingency for over and above 46 or 61 million?
Sorry, can you repeat that a little bit
Do you
louder?
have any overruns, contingency or overruns above the 46 million or the 61 million? I'm sure we'll really get into it, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna bank them here, plus 23 million, we're looking further.
Yeah.
So you're saying 46, that could go to 60.
It could.
All I'm asking is, do you have any built-in contingency over and above what the cost of it?
There is contingency built into that number. There's a 20% design and pricing contingency, and there's a 10% construction contingency within that
I
number.
didn't notice it, it's not being a number, once I get a compliment.
Yeah. There's, I think there's a bit more detail in the report on the breakdown of that. But absolutely, that is in there.
So another point I made to the taxpayers' paradise, 61 million. We can send an awful lot of people from paradise to go to other homes and make them more profitable. I can go to the bridge every day if I want to. I can get into Broadway some, I get into both. Nobody pays my.
You're not a kid going after school.
Right.
You're not a kid trying to get after school.
I have 2 teenagers and some kids.
My question is the same thing, because I think what we're seeing is the operating revenues and expenses as opposed to the capital costs that are there, and how that would be recovered. Even I suppose, I think you have said you built in a plus minus 30%, and I would say it's really plus, right? So let's say that the 46 becomes 61 or 62, and let's say that the cost recovery through other programs becomes, say, 50%. That's still $30 million that had to be financed at, say, 5 or 6%, whatever it is. That's another $1.5 million to $1.8 million, I guess.
It's going to cost the taxpayers $100 million a year.
But that was the point. This covered the operating cost as opposed to the capital cost. And even if you had some recovery, it would still probably be substantial. And I say this, even though I recognize, oh, this would be a tremendous asset for the town. And for all ages, not just kids, older people, but I guess part of the challenge for the town then will be to see what other funding options there are. And I know the mayor said it's not been easy to get money from the federal government through various programs, but we have many programs that seem to support, projects and concepts such as this. And I certainly wouldn't want us to give up on it just because it seems like it's an insurmountable thing right now, because it may not.
And it will, as per the escalation slide, it'll just get more and more expensive. So as you grow, as you densify, as it may become harder and harder to get lessons, it will cost more,
If we fast forward 5 to 7 years, the population will continue to grow. It'll be a great attraction. I'm waiting 25 years for this meeting. Because I was bringing my kids back and forth, St. John's, and Mount Pearl, to Redwood Park, all those places. And now all of a sudden this comes up, this would be a great feature. It'd be a very good addition. I got grandchildren who can't get in swimming lessons in Mount Pearl and St. John's. So, to me, this is just, we got a nice spring, put a water cooler in. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's consistent to what we heard across, the comparison here, right, is peak times versus maybe non-peak times, and it's hard to get into those lessons. I saw John here.
I'd just like to point out, I was really impressed with the level of engagement, the number of residents who replied, and you captured the opinion of, and how clearly they expressed their opinion that they want to see this and they're willing to pay for it. Now, I realize there's some challenges with the capital cost, and we need to look for cost share partners and try to make this work, but I think the residents have made it clear what they want. I've been to every engagement thing, I've replied to every survey, and I'm currently swimming in Mount Pearl, and registered for Paradise Triathlon. So, but we're a community, and we have our double ice complex, and I'm happy that it's there for other people's children and other people to use. I'm happy that we have many soccer and ball fields and lights and turf and whatever the heck we got. I don't know, because I've never set foot on any. I don't use it. I use trails, and I really enjoy them, and I would certainly use the pool. But I think the residents have spoken clearly that they've overwhelmingly expressed the opinion that they would like to see this. I just hope that you can find partners in the federal and provincial government who would get the capital to build it. And thanks for bringing us this far.
Thank you, sir. Lady in the black, and then we'll go to you.
I guess I'm confused by the numbers of respondents because you said 8,810 dwellings in Paradise. You said about 1,900 people responded to the survey, and you said that was a 45% response rate. Am I correct in that?
Great question. I had the same question for Jason, and I was
Because
going to ask
that's a
him to
21% response rate from my math.
Yeah.
Maybe 22.
Based on your population, so the total amount, so that question we have at the end that asks about the total people in your household, is that the question we're asking? Sorry, it's hard to hear.
No, I'm
It's probably hard to
asking
hear me
the
too.
response rate being
That's what the question is, correct.
1,900 people. The response rate of 1,900 people with 8,800 dwellings in the Paradise community. You said there was a 45% response rate. So that,
No,
by my
40
math, is only 20%.
It represents 45% of your population.
Yeah, I
So the
think
total amount of
that's the
residents
question,
that
right?
responded was 9,940,
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
which is 45% of your current population, or basically, sorry, not current, your 2021 population.
Can you repeat that, Jason?
So the total Right, yeah, can you show that picture? Okay. Next one. That one. So it's not a 45% response rate, it's 45% of your population was represented in the survey.
Right. So that's not
So-
response rate though. So you have a large number of seniors in Paradise and a large group of children in Paradise. I'm not going to diminish the fact that yes, the pool would be great, amazing. I would love to have seen it when my kids were small as well. My concern is for people who are on fixed incomes. My concern is for my elderly parents. They could not figure out the survey for the love of them. She got in there, she got confused, and she got out. My family has lived here for generations and we will continue to live here. My concern is that you proposed $197 a year of annual increase in taxes. That's assuming your costs go on track. What if they don't go on track? That number is going to go up. And then year over year, we're going to have maintenance for the pools. Someone's going to drive through that beautiful glass window you got in front of it. We're going to have all kinds of things going on. Everything. Where does the taxes go year over year in 7 years, 10 years? Are we taking ourselves into a place we can't afford?
Do you want to take that?
One of the interesting things, yeah, actually, one of the interesting things when you have with recreation opportunities like this, there's two things that has to be sort of identified as risks that you have. Using other people's pools in your region isn't a good sort of thing to count on. You're looking at Ontario or looking at other Atlantic regions, they're talking about doing two types of fees for people. So for example, people in your community go and use CVS or the other pools, may get charged a higher rate, which is one concern. The second thing also is having the ability, having a pool or this added amenity makes types of businesses move here, allows more children to get into swimming, which again reduces the drowning rates. Those are type of things that are good things that come with the pool. The other thing is more people move here, more residents will choose this place versus the other ones because now there's a pool. What that will end up meaning is that now you actually spread that tax base over more houses as they come in. An average dwelling count is 10,000, 12,000. And that cost recovery rate is now shared among those amount of dwellings, which then again would either stay the same or potentially go down on that. The only thing is when you look at taxes, it's hard to see when you look at how your tax bill comes and you look at it and say which piece is going everywhere, it kind of comes out of general pot. So you can't see if your taxes go down because of swimming or it goes up because of swimming. But those are kind of key things you need to remember that are risks that people haven't identified. We did in a report saying that as a concern that you're seeing that in other parts of Canada. Another thing that's hard to understand for that value of having a pool is understanding more houses coming in to sort of diversify and bring in more houses to split that taxes across everyone. So again, if this was today, based on if it was built today, you only had the 8,900 dwellings, then that's what the tax rate would be. I'm pretty sure you have a little bit more dwellings now, but those are key things you're having. Developers also like coming into places that have these amenities because then they can sell lots a lot faster, which then allows more people to come. And with their fast-growing population, allows kind of for a perfect storm right now for one of these type of major recreation developments to happen.
You're right to be concerned. You know, folks that have spoke up and talked about financial concerns, you're right to be concerned, 100%. You know, one of the reasons why we gave that range from $95 potential increase to $195 potential increase is because there's more work to be done, right? And there could be, you know, there's lots of programs that offer, you know, free lessons or free drop-in or free swimming to people on fixed income or people that, you know, want to use the facility, but because of their tax increase, now they can't afford to come and use the facility, right? So I think there's a lot more conversations to be had about how it's run and how it's accessible to everybody in the community, which is one of the main goals of the working committee throughout all of this, no matter what your economic situation is. You know, the maintenance that you mentioned, yeah, accidents happen, insurance, etc. And if someone ran through the building, again, that's definitely not a design. We'd be looking at a more durable base, you know, bollards, all those kind of safety measures, absolutely. But, you know, you're right to pick up on that as well.
Well, I mean, they've driven through the YMCA, is it? 2 or 3 times we've had cars drive into that building, so they've had to shut it down.
which is devastating to a community when they've fought and paid for a new aquatic center and then it gets shut down. I've seen it happen, a flooding in the basement, your center is shut down for a year, right? Anything could happen, and the idea is to design with resiliency in mind, right?
And just one small follow-up, did you guys look at other ways to kind of get residents' input instead of this big long survey? Like I said, elderly people that I have spoken to, they found it difficult to navigate and just gave up on it.
Yeah.
So I just wondered the ratios that we're looking at compared to what you're truly getting. Are you getting the loud voice that wants it compared to the softer voice that can't speak up?
Right. Fair point. And yes, well, we had 2 pop-ups, I believe, Jason. So in-person events during existing events, whether it was outside or here at the rec center, as an opportunity. Yeah, go ahead.
We had 3 events.
3 events. I'm forgetting. Yeah. So the comment was, some folks did find the online survey challenging and couldn't complete it, and wondering if we've heard from everybody, right? Not just the squeaky wheels. So that's something we can take away and I can talk further with the town about. Thanks.
Oh, sorry, hi. I just wanted to, maybe this question might be better suited to the mayor, wherever it is. Hi, I'm Karen, nice to meet you. I'm curious because we're actually newer residents to Paradise, and this is my first time doing something like this, so I'm very curious about how this all works. But from what I've seen, is the population has grown significantly since you guys have done this survey. And to piggyback off your questions, will we be able to retake the survey so that we're included since we're also current taxpayers?
Well, everything will go back, I guess everything will go back to staff now at this point, and always gets reassessed with council after this, and we'll collect all the data. I don't know, it'll go back to our recreation and community services department after this and see where we get from this. So I don't have the information where we go from this, but that's where
Okay. I'm just,
but everything from this will be, our staff taking notes on everything that's being done here tonight.
okay,
It will all be included in.
thank you, I appreciate that. And there's one more question, sorry. So like, not that my problems are everybody else's problems, but everything's increased and some of us are first-time homeowners and everything's more expensive and, business isn't as good always and things are more expensive. And for people, I know you mentioned that, there would be like discount swimming for people who can't afford it, but those people aren't worried about discount swimming, they're worried about putting food on their table. And right now, for me, the way I look at this is the pool is an extremely luxury service to have. And I would love that to see it for the community. I do love everybody. Halloween, I give out full-size chocolate bars. Like, I really do love the kids. But there's people out there that can barely afford to put food on their table right now with the increase of everything, not including gas and electricity. Look what happened. I'm paying $500 a month to heat my home. That's a lot of money. So I'm just wondering, like, is there an option for people to opt out of paying the tax increase and people who want the pool to pay a little bit more, or they pay more at the pool, like pay $10 to swim instead of us paying out of our pockets for something we're never going to use?
There are a variety of models, so, the less tax increase, the more you're gonna have to charge for programs, right?
Yeah.
And it's finding that right balance for the community. But look at, the healthcare model, right? That's all taxes, all right? And I can go and have a child for free, and I can go and get emergency treatment for free. It might take a long time.
But we're not having children because we can't afford
I
it.
totally understand, yeah. So
Sorry.
no, yeah, I appreciate it. Bad comparison. So there are different models, right? What we're proposing right now is there's a range of a potential tax increase that could help council make some decisions, and if they want to go to the next phase of design, where more of these things could be investigated further. Engagement is typical in the next phase of design, another layer of engagement. What do you think? Are you still in support? Or are you not in support? Is this something that you want in your community? So it's not, I don't want to speak for council, but it's not a decision to be taken lightly, but there's also more opportunity as we go down the path. It's not going to happen overnight.
Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
No, thank you for sharing, Jen.
But one thing I do think about swimming is that it's actually necessity. I've seen so many kids right now that are not getting lessons, that are not lifeguarding, and in 5 years' time, you're gonna see a massive shortage of actual lifeguards and hopefully people train. So I do really feel strongly that we need to get a swimming pool in this area. The CBF pool is really small and it's actually quite old as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we could actually, if we've actually engaged with them, but like there's a possibility to do a partnership or have them meet us partway or have like, right now that, town of Harding has slots at the Y, which doesn't work out very well either because that's such a small little pool. But if the CBS would want to have part of our lesson time and pay part of the construction, or so there's like other communities, Carboneer, I'm sure on the weekend, they would come in an hour drive for their kid to have a swimming lesson. There's just different things like that. The other thing is curiosity, was blocks included in the competition pool?
Sorry?
Were they, did they count having like dive
Like a
blocks?
starting block?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
curious.
yep.
Sometimes some teams have to pay for this themselves, and just, that's all the things that you could look at, not included too.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Great comments about partnerships. Sometimes we see regional recreation facilities. So, you know, there's a few different communities going in together to balance some of the impact to taxes or to ongoing operational costs. Yeah, and
It's just a game, that's what you see in the presentation, you can look here. Revenue percentage is what from here now. This is a game for here.
it's included in there, the estimated maintenance,
Where does it say going?
yeah, so we had an estimated $100,000 included in maintenance for the annual expenses. That's not, salaries, that would be maintenance. And of course, that fluctuates, right? It's an average. You're gonna have equipment that needs to be replaced after 20 years, 15 years, 25 years, it all varies, yeah. Yes?
First of all, as is the case with any government, I always applaud those who go out, seek resident feedback and engagement. It's the right way to do it. And I'm encouraged to see the towns continue down that path from this perspective as well. That's the first round. Second thing is every project requires a good plan. The town is already moving in the direction of a plan, with still some work to do. Of course, what has to accompany the plan is real, intense, concerted, focused advocacy in dealing with government agencies and departments to try and leverage any available funding that may be there. And to that point, I would just simply say that in this week's spring economic update, the federal government announced $755 million for sports. Now, albeit that's a lot of that is for organizations, it's funding, increases in funding for those organizations, maybe the Olympic Committee, but there is an element of that funding for infrastructure. So the time is now, if we want to get on, if the town wants to get on that path, we're having those discussions with the federal government, but we then funding that's good.
Yeah, great point. There's some funding elements that want to see tender-ready drawings and some, that there's certain phases. So there's a lot to consider and you got to plan for it. Thank you for sharing that. The time is now, and a lot of people refer to recreation as proactive healthcare, right? I saw a hand come up over there.
Yeah, with the next phase, we got two different sites. The next phase of engagement, eliminate one of them sites.
Well, in our report, we do identify a preferred site as this site. That's for council to evaluate. So it could move forward as a future decision, or it could be decided a little bit quicker. I'll leave that to council, I think, in terms of how they decipher the report and how they want to move forward. But this was our recommended location out of the two for a few different reasons.
Thank you.
Two-part question probably for council more than anything. How many more residents do we plan on building in Paradise? Like, how much more room until we're at capacity? Is that, like, do we have any idea?
How much more growth we got?
Yeah,
We got many years of growth yet.
right, but can we fit another 8,000 houses? Can we fit another 4,000? What does that look like?
I think the estimate, I'm not sure what year it, the estimated growth would be about 60,000 people.
60,000 people.
Yeah, 60,000 population growth.
Each is 10,000 houses.
No, I don't, that could be over a 30-year period, I'm not really sure the exact year, but it is estimated, there's still some growth here, right?
And I guess two-part question, how does money, like if we don't get funding, how do we get money to start this? And does building the pool impact other things happening in the town? Like, for example, St. Thomas Aquinas is a mess. Even the new park that they fixed down by the pump station is like going on a roller coaster ride. Paradise Hill is starting to become like that. I thought I ran over a log going up Paradise Hill looking at one the other day. There's potholes everywhere. We don't have curbs. We don't have, some streets still don't even have storage and water. How does other things get impacted by us bringing on this project as well?
Well, I guess we'll assess that through staff and now, obviously it would impact future budgets we could get in the economy. The money, the borrowing and the money will have to come from somewhere, so it probably would affect all the projects. So I wouldn't know to tell you what that would be at the moment, but I guess from the internal staff, of bringing all this information back, they'll put a decision note to council and it'll be a big discussion to council now where we get after this meeting. That's what in the coming weeks or months, that's what I have to answer.
I assume another road going out of the community is on the agenda as well.
It's on our agenda, it's definitely on our agenda, we've had many meetings, but that's on the agenda.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Any other comments, questions? Well, thank you for the participation. Thank you for sharing.
I just like to thank everybody for coming out. It was just generally with these sessions we do get small numbers, we know it, but it's important you get both sides of the picture. The people that are for pool, against pool, we gotta have all the information to make informed decisions, right? So it's important you voice your opinions, right? And it doesn't have to stop now. If you guys want to reach out to any members of council on a going forward basis, you're more than welcome to reach out to your concerns or proposal or against the pool. Okay, thank you for coming, no?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason, for wrapping up.